Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Lyfebulb Live. Today we have on Fabulous and Fatigued, which is perfect for my feeling today, and I believe Sarah's as well. And we are going to talk about just because we look good doesn't mean that we feel good, which is exactly how we both feel. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I have been living with fibromyalgia for the past 14 years. I got into an accident where I had a car hit me on my back, and a year later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And ever since then, it's just been a really strange journey where a lot of times, because of my age, people would tell me I'm too young to be sick, or just because I'm young, they're not understanding about my sickness just because I look a certain way, or because my Instagram feed is perfect, and I'm wearing makeup, and let's say I'm dressed nicely because those are things I actually enjoy doing.
Right.
There's that automatic assumption that, hey, you look okay, so there's no way that you're actually sick.
Right. What could possibly be wrong with you if you look that good? Which is, it's a hard statement sometimes. You said something there that I do want to address. You look
Mhm.
too young to be sick. That's such a odd statement to me. And I'm much older than Sarah, but I get that comment too. And I don't think age should have a say in whether or not you're too sick or too not sick. I don't know what the right word is that I'm looking for
Right.
there, but I know some older adults that look fantastic and they feel great. It doesn't that should never be part of it, but 100% people say that all the time. And when you have an
So,
invisible illness, it's very
right.
difficult.
Yeah. So for me, I think that what I believe that people are just used to seeing a certain image of, people with disabilities or people with sickness, and an illness. So people are just used to seeing someone on a wheelchair, or, if
Right.
they see someone wearing a plaster. And I guess that kind of also relates to the entire mental illness aspect of
Hmm.
things, because you can't see things. It's very similar to that, in that sense. And we're so used to seeing this certain narrative in, like, on TV, especially, where if you get sick, you have like a breakthrough and then you feel better, or you get sick and, by the end of the movie, you die or something. So you either overcome it, or, the illness, sort of, I guess, ends your life. So
Yeah.
there's no in between where
There's
they
no
show,
living with the illness.
yes, they don't show what it's like to live with something every single day, and how that can be debilitating, or how life limiting that can be. And I guess that's an entire other conversation on its own, where,
Yeah, I kind of like where this is going though, because you are so incredibly right. There's no middle ground there, especially if people are in their end stage of their illness. They do look, there is a look to that, but that is not every illness. And I love that you added mental health to it because my gosh, that's 100% the truth. And that's a barrier and a stigma that we have to break. Depression doesn't have to look like somebody disheveled who won't get out of bed. Anxiety isn't somebody who, is anxious and pulling at their hair, whatever the stereotype is. All of
right,
those things can look exactly like this because guess what? I have all of those things. But
because I have them too, but I think that it's because people um, make that assumption that if you look good, it can't be that bad. Sure, you have depression. Sure, you say you have anxiety. Sure, you say you have an illness. However,
right.
if it was really bad, like you mentioned, you would have that certain look. And when you don't have that certain look, it can't be that bad.
That is so true. Exactly
Yeah.
true. So I wrote this blog post once about I had a really bad moment with MS, and I got out of the shower and my whole back seized up. I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't move. I needed help to get to the couch, and tears were just streaming down my face. But if you
Right.
looked at me, I didn't look like I was sick or like that I was in pain.
Mm-hmm.
But here was my like, I didn't understand. I was in so much pain. I kept looking at my legs and my body, and I thought, how can nobody see this for the amount of pain that I'm in? And there's no way to honestly describe that to somebody else because you understand it because you have different health conditions that can help you, grasp what I'm talking about. But to somebody who's never gone through any of that, I may look fine, but every step I take some days is excruciating. And I think, how can you not see it? The pain is so intense. Do you ever feel that way?
100%. But I think that, um, I guess, sort of adding on to what I said earlier, in the sense that, people will say that, our illness is not as bad because we look a certain way. Um,
Right.
I think what happens is, because we live with it every single day, we sort of live, and learn to put on a certain face where,
Hmm.
um, it's kind of a blank face, at least for me, because I'm very expressive and I laugh a lot, and I'm loud, and I am a certain way. I'm bubbly, when I'm doing well, and when I'm not doing well, I'm not doing most of those things. However, I'm not crying because at this point in time, I've been in pain for 14 years. So, a pain level of an 8 has started to feel like, I don't know, 4 now, I guess.
Because you're used to it.
Yes, because
Yes.
because we're so used to it, and
Yep.
because we
100%.
still have to continue living our lives. So, we're talking about how both of us feel not the greatest today,
Hmm.
and we're both here. We're both doing this live, and like last night, I only slept for 2 hours, and
Hmm.
the night, but like I only sleep maybe maximum 3 or 4 hours a day,
Same.
you know, and that catches on, and that you, it shows up on your body in different ways, maybe not on your face. And because, again, it's not, um, because it's invisible and it's not visible, the same exact thing, people continue making that assumption.
A
I think
hundred
we have a
percent.
comment here.
Yes. So it's one of our other I can't even speak. It is one of our ambassadors who's just like you, an ambassador, and it's
Right.
Rennie. And she's got a great point. First of all, she said spot on, so she must be agreeing with us. And it's about creating some sort of new language and vocabulary that we can use and that others can use to understand where we're coming from a little bit. But there is one thing that you just said that I really want to make a point of. If I don't laugh every day in some way or joke around or put a little bit of eyeliner on or whatever it is, it makes it harder for me to get through the day. That doesn't mean
Mhm.
that it wasn't hard to do those things because sometimes I can get ready in 15 minutes. I'm not a high maintenance person. Sometimes it takes me 45 minutes and it has nothing to do with my maintenance. It's I have to sit down in between each thing. And
Right.
the last thing I want to say is your name, which I love the word fabulous. So I'm just going to say that was you. You had me at fabulous, darling. Um, but fatigued, right? So when you live with a chronic illness, whenever somebody says to me, "Oh my God, I'm so tired," I used to say that before I was diagnosed with anything. 10 years ago, I used to say those things. There is a different type of fatigue that comes with
Yes.
having an illness. It is completely and utterly different than anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I've been through, my fair share of crap, but being chronically fatigued, there's nothing like it. There really isn't. And I don't know how to explain that to people.
I think that, you know, where when it comes to that, it has a lot to do with language and the fact that people use the words tired and fatigued interchangeably, and they don't realize that being tired and being fatigued are two completely different things. And so I think
Totally.
that the very first thing that we need to do is, teach people the difference, or tell people that they're not the same thing and what the differences are between the two,
Right.
for people to realize that if I'm saying I'm tired and you just had a long day at work and you're saying you're tired, it's not the same, you know?
A
And
hundred percent.
Yeah, so I think that that has to do a lot with language. Other words that people use interchangeably um, are migraine and headache. I would say that's something I've noticed because I
Yep.
get migraines as well. And, with migraines, it's sometimes hard to even look at a screen, but other people will just have a headache and they'll say, "Oh, I have a migraine." Um, so,
And
or
when you
lots.
live with chronic migraine, it's totally different than getting like a migraine here and there. I mean, I don't think I go a month without having a migraine. I mean, and they are the next day after I've recovered from my migraine, I feel hungover.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
It's
it is
exhausting.
completely. My sons get migraine too because, and I just, it breaks my heart for them because, they're younger and they can't deal with it. Now, not to change the subject at all, but let's all point out the fact that Sarah has the most awesome accent on planet Earth.
Do
There's just
I?
something about that little Canadian, in there every now and then. When you said plaster, I assume you meant a cast. Like I love stuff like that.
Yes.
It
I
just
did
cracks
mean
me up.
fast.
I know, but it's just funny how, we're not that far from each other yet.
Right.
There are words that, I use differently than you use. I just had to point that out because I just think it's so cool. And there's something else I wanted to say. Yes, your Instagram feed is truly amazing. You take beautiful, gorgeous pictures. If you haven't checked out her Instagram, please make sure you do. However, you also show a real side to you. I've seen you put up some pictures that weren't, I still think they're beautiful, so don't get me wrong, but they're real. Like they're totally authentic and they're you showing, hey, look at today sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
important.
I think that so I guess the reason why I even started blogging, or the reason why I even started my Instagram page, was to I guess highlight the what my everyday life looks like. So
Right.
before I started my blog, none of my friends, none of my family members, I don't think any of them had any idea what my life looks like on a daily basis. And now I have people reaching out to me saying, "Oh, it looks like you're going through something tough." But in the past, because again, Instagram perfect, pictures, and I wouldn't talk about it, there was that automatic assumption that I'm doing completely okay.
Right.
um, so I think that we really need to step away from uh, relating illnesses to age, to how we look, to whether there's anything physical or not, like the plaster cast like you mentioned.
Yep.
um, if we're on a wheelchair or not. A lot of times when you park in the disabled parking spot, people will give you dirty looks if you're not on a wheelchair.
Yep.
And you know it's like, hey, that person could very well be so sick. That person could be on chemo, and the reason they parked over there is because they don't have enough energy to walk even inside that grocery store.
I mean,
So
they could have a heart condition. Heart conditions, you can't see a heart outside of your body. I mean,
right.
my father has a serious heart condition. He should park in the handicap. He shouldn't walk, 5 miles in a parking lot. Not that he's walking 5 miles, but I totally agree with this, 100%.
Yeah, and again, over there, if an older person parks, even if there's nothing, that you see physically wrong with them, um, wrong, for lack of a better
Mhm.
word, there's nothing wrong, but um, yeah, like people will still understand. But if it's like a younger person, like a teenager or someone in their 20s, again, they look absolutely fine. So I think that we need to we need to do a lot of work on trying to separate um, you know age and look.
Stereotypes, right?
Yes.
So,
And
part of this conversation, I'm sorry, we got a little bit of a delay here. So go ahead, finish what you were saying.
I actually forgot what I was saying. So
So I actually am sort of glad you forgot. That's another thing. When you are chronically fatigued, you can lose your train of thought in 30 seconds or less,
oh yeah.
and it
Oh yeah.
will never come back again. And of course, now I forgot what I was going to say. How funny is that? Shoot. Oh, I know what it was. Um,
Okay.
we're talking about, just because I look good doesn't mean that I feel good. And I've had this happen before where maybe I've posted a picture or something and I'm out with, family and we're, at a restaurant or something. And then I run into someone the next day and they ask how I am. And I'll say something like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain today, or today was really hard, or whatever it is. And their response, and I've had this happen more than once, is, well, I saw that you were out last night. You looked fine last night. Just because we're posting a picture where we look fine, that doesn't mean that we feel fine. You have to still, like we were saying, and I love this sentence. I think it's something we need to really hone in on. We are living through a diagnosis. So if I didn't get out of bed every time I was in pain, I would never get out of bed.
Yes, that is so true. So, one of the things that you just reminded me of the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was talking, and I sort of cut him in, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something." And then he said, "Yeah, go ahead, because you are going to forget what you wanted to tell me." So, I think that my friends are also starting to notice that. And a lot of times I'll be talking and then the tiniest little thing happens here and there, and I completely forget and have to go back to them. And I'm like, sorry, what were we talking about again? So that happens to me a lot. And there was something
I
else that
just
I
love
wanted.
that your friend understood that. Like, that to me is so amazing, that
Yeah,
they understood that you needed to finish that sentence because you were going to forget it. Like, that is really somebody that's listening to you, and that, like, kudos to that person. I'm being completely serious. And this same situation that you were saying just happened to me last night, where we were talking about one thing and then somebody switched gears, and the person that was originally speaking went back to talk about what she was talking about. I had no idea what she was talking about, and it was literally like 15 seconds. I could not for the life of me even remember what she was talking about. And the people
right.
I'm with know me, so they were just like, "Oh, this is what we were talking about. Don't worry about it." Like, they didn't make me feel. There's been times when I have felt, I don't want to say stupid, that's not the right word, but it's made me feel really crappy because I couldn't remember what they were talking about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely understand that aspect of things as well. There's another incident that I just actually remembered, and it was something that you mentioned earlier about, putting on eyeliner and getting ready and getting out of bed. I remember I was having a flare up, and I was sitting there getting ready for my best friend's engagement party. And I was crying because I was thinking to myself that this is supposed to be a moment of happiness. This is supposed to be something that I'm supposed to really look forward to and be excited about. And there I was sitting, dragging myself and forcing myself to, get ready, get dressed, and
Yeah,
drive to that
yeah,
party and attend that party. And obviously, nobody over there could tell that I wasn't feeling well. And I cried before the party, I cried after the party because of how crappy I felt. And I just felt bad because I felt like I couldn't even really celebrate, moments of happiness because of how much, like how crappy I felt that day. And that happens a lot. That happens quite often, but you still got to go there, You can't miss that engagement
yeah.
party.
So there's a couple of things there that are, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I've felt exactly that. For one thing is we can say no to things. That's hard, but we can say no because we don't feel good. The problem is if you were to say no to that party, you would feel guilty for missing your best friend's engagement party on such a happy moment. And that
Hmm.
guilt can sometimes take over. So that is why we push through it. And the other thing, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I know I have, where I have tried to get ready. I felt like crap. My eyeliner's all uneven because I can't see anything. And maybe I have to use a cane that night because I can't really walk and I have to wear flats and I can't wear heels and I don't really feel like myself, but I still go to the party. My
Hmm.
self-esteem is like, whoosh. Like, I have a hard time when I'm in that part of my illness where I'm flared up and I'm not doing so great and I still go to the party and I'm maybe a little uncomfortable. I have a really hard time sometimes at that moment. And I have to learn and remind myself that this is my new normal. This is how I have to live. And that it's okay if I drop a glass because my hands hurt, or it's okay if I fumble over my words. Those things are okay. That's not why people want you there. They want you there because they want you present. They don't care about you, being grammatically correct, or, holding on to your seltzer water, whatever. But
Right.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you just feel like so low once you get there.
Yeah. So with regards to what you said, there's two things over there. The first one being, it takes a lot to get comfortable with the idea of even saying no, because before the diagnosis, we're going everywhere. We're making it to every party, lots of hangouts, everything. And now all of a sudden, you feel this way. And, sometimes it's a two-way street, obviously. Like, the friends sometimes don't understand if you can't make it to something. Sometimes they're understanding. I have been feeling like I've been in a flare up for the past 2 or 3 months, and it's been really bad. So I have missed a friend's baby shower. I have met one of my friends, his daughter turned 1. I missed her birthday party. And, my friends were nice enough to actually, they didn't make a big deal out of it. They completely understood. But I think this was the first time I said no to a party. And that's after 14 years of having an illness. So that's how long it's taken me to tell myself that it's okay. I can make up for it in other ways. So on a day when I'm feeling well, I can go and see my friend's daughter and, wish her a happy birthday and take a present for her. Or, whenever I'm feeling better, I'll go see my friend whose baby shower I missed.
Right.
And hey, maybe that'll be better because I get to spend one-on-one time with her, because parties can be exhausting.
100%. And for me, the cognitive part of being in a party, sometimes if I'm in a bad flare, the noise and everything, I can't focus. So
Right.
it's really, one thing I wanted to ask you is, again, oh my gosh, it went right out of my head. What the hell was it? We are a pair and a half. You said something and I really wanted to point it out. Oh. So when someone says to you, and you get to that party, right? And took everything you could to get to that party. You cried, but you still got there. You're in pain. You don't really want to be there, but you're doing it for your friend. And someone says to you, "Oh my God, you look so good." Do you respond with, "Yeah, but I feel terrible," or do you say thank you?
I think that it really depends on who I'm speaking to. If it's a close friend, I'll actually tell them that I feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And if it's someone who doesn't know me that well, someone who I haven't had conversations with about my illness, I'll say thank you. But ever since I started blogging, I think I've gotten more comfortable talking about my illness. So in the past, there would be certain things that I wouldn't talk about, but now I actually do say those out loud.
Right.
So I would maybe in the past say something like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it to blah, blah, blah." But now I'll actually say, "Hey, I can't make it because I'm having a flare up and this is happening and that's happening." So I've gotten comfortable with talking about my illness. And I've noticed myself doing that in person and like through texts and phone calls, Yeah. But before that, I didn't mention it to anyone. So I think that the blog has really helped me grow as well, in terms, like, I've had so much personal growth because, I express more now as a result. And I think that because I remind myself that expressing it is actually good because I'm raising awareness. And if I talk about something, for example, I have fibromyalgia. So one of my close friends, she knows about my illness, and she had someone, like a coworker, mention I have fibromyalgia, and she was about to explain. And my friend said, I completely understand. I know what it's like. Don't worry about it. And that person felt so seen and heard and understood in that
Yep.
moment. And my friend told me that. And so I realized that the only reason that person felt that way was because I raised awareness, or I was communicating and being verbal about how I'm feeling.
I love that. I love that because it does take your advocacy and the work that you're doing to a different level, because that's exactly what we want to do. We want people to be aware and to understand. You can read the definition of fibromyalgia or MS or depression. You can read that definition, but to see it on somebody that, you care for, that is different. And so that's so amazing. It really, really is. I love
Yeah.
it.
Another thing that I actually just remembered um, is, you know, we have to get ready for these parties in the sense that we have to save our energy. So each time I'm going somewhere, um, I literally will, put in, okay, like I'll plan it like, okay, so this time I have to get ready. So half an hour before that, I need to nap so that I'm actually feeling well enough to be able to get ready and then leave, so that I don't feel, really exhausted by the time I'm leaving.
Right.
So there's that aspect of things as well, where every single time I go out, I'm taking a nap right before I'm going out.
Mhm.
Or it was actually my birthday last weekend, and the day before, I was actually saving my energy because I knew that the next day I was going to be getting phone calls and text
Right.
messages. And, there's nothing like, I think it was last year on my birthday, I felt so exhausted and fatigued. It felt like I had worked for like 48 hours or something.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I was like, this isn't how a birthday should feel. It felt like work.
Right.
So like that's why this year around, the day before, I was saving energy and I wasn't doing anything, and I was literally just bumming around, so just so I could have enough energy to pick up phone calls the next day and to reply to text messages and thank people for their.
I'm actually glad that you said phone messages and texting, because we shouldn't just be talking about parties and going out. Sometimes answering text messages and phone calls is just as exhausting
Oh my god, yes.
because it takes like serious brain power.
So my friends make fun of me and they say that Sarah will get back to you within 5 business days or 10 business days. So a lot of my friends, sort of understand by now that I won't get back to them right away unless it's urgent or they need me. I've told them that if you need me, if you want to talk to me and it's urgent, message me. I will actually reply back to you right away. But if it's nothing urgent and it can wait, it really depends on my energy for the day. For example, after this live, I'm going to be really drained because
For sure.
this was a lot of talking. Um, and so I'm done for the day.
Yep.
I cannot have other conversations, or, go hang out or do anything. I need to be in bed
And
after.
just not engaging, not thinking, like not even looking at a screen. Sometimes it's just laying there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So this has been a great conversation, and we talked about so many different things. But as we're talking, as you were just talking, I was thinking, there's a few things here that I think people should take away, especially those who are newly diagnosed, or somebody who is dealing with fatigue or chronic pain, and you're struggling with it. First of all, you can say no. You don't have to go. And like Sara said, that may take years for you to finally get to, but you can say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. Two is, you don't have to tell everybody that you don't feel good. Tell the people that can help you, even if you're at a situation, at a party or something. Tell that person, like, hey, look, I'm not feeling that great today. Can you just kind of, be near me just in case I need somebody to lean on? Look for that support person at an event. Third, rest. You have got to take care of yourself, and that is rest. Maybe it's just 10-15 minutes. Maybe it's having a cup of tea and sitting in silence for a little bit. But Sara is so right. If you have something going on, either plan on resting before or after, because you do have to reserve your energy 100%. And I think for me, the final one is, and I hope you can add a couple to this as well. Just because you got to the party doesn't mean you have to stay at the party. And that's one thing
Mm,
that I have learned through this is sometimes I will go somewhere, I'll do a drive-by, stay for a little bit, and then I'll scoot out. I don't say goodbye to anybody. I just leave. Because sometimes I feel like if I say goodbye, people are like, oh, why are you leaving? We don't want you to go.
mm,
We haven't done blah, blah, blah yet. And I'm like, I'm out, goodbye.
right.
And I just sneak out. So you don't have to always commit to the entire time. And just because you got to that party, that person got to the party and looks fantastic, but you may know that that person suffers from a a chronic illness.
Chronic illness, yeah.
Understand that it may have taken them a lot to physically get there.
100%. One of the things that actually reminds me is, I actually take breaks during parties at times, depending
That's
on how I
great.
feel. So, I'll actually go to a room that nobody's hanging out in, and I'll just nap, or I'll just, lay down for a bit. Or if that kind of space is not available, I'll actually go to my car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll go to, let's say it's a big room and everyone's hanging out in one corner. I'll go to the other corner, and, you know, it's not me being antisocial. It's me needing that time to rest and process things, because talking hurts.
Yeah.
It's tiring. Hearing everything, processing everything. There's too much stimulation, and that can be a lot for people with chronic
Yeah.
illnesses.
It can be exhausting.
Yeah. So, and I think that one of the things that I do want to add is, if and when you do create these boundaries, you might have the people that you're trying to create them with might resist these boundaries, or they might make you feel bad about creating these boundaries. But you have to do what's best for you. And if they don't understand, there's some people, I believe there's some people that will never understand.
100%.
And there are some people that will come around and, start understanding. It might take them a long time to understand. And that might be part of your fight, but the sooner you start it, the sooner it's going to end. And, the sooner you're going to feel better in terms of
Absolutely.
your relationships, being honest and, having that honest conversation about how you feel. You don't owe that explanation to anyone else, but if that's going to help you feel better, and, so because I remember at one point in time, I used to think people are going to think I'm making up excuses.
Oh, I always thought, I think that all the time. Like, people are going to be like, oh, she's so full of crap. What is she saying? But I've learned that I've learned to not worry about what other people think of that. And part of it is because of what you said. The people that really are invested in you are going to understand. The people that aren't, they're not. And I'm not being crass. You just don't need them in your circle of people, because they're going to take more energy from you in the long run. They truly are. And I think part of our problem with explaining what's going on sometimes to people when we feel like we have to is we feel guilty, right? You feel guilty that you feel like this, you can't be the life of the party, or you can't, go to that one last bar, or, whatever you're doing. You feel there's a guilt around it, and there's
Right.
also, people need to understand that we do have a sense of missing things, right? You miss that part of you that could go and
I
do
have
those
crazy FOMO.
Oh, my son's got
Crazy.
terrible FOMO. Yeah, isn't it funny how, like, that's like a thing now? But it's so true. Fear of missing out is the big thing. And it's even harder when you live with a chronic illness, because you miss out on so much. You really
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
But you also add to your life because you have realized how to take care of yourself. I love how you said, I go to sit in a corner sometimes because that's what I need to do for myself. And I've stopped using the word self-care, and I use self-resilience, because that does build self-resilience in us, because we are learning to take care of ourselves. It's
I
funny
love that.
how some people think that self-care is selfish, and it's not. You sitting in that corner isn't making you antisocial. It's making you resilient. That is
Right.
the essence of it. And 100%, because if you are not engaging in a conversation at a get together or something, it doesn't make you antisocial. It does not. Just like someone with depression isn't lazy and someone with anxiety isn't, they say antisocial because they can't go to, that's not it. That really isn't. We need to be taking care of ourselves. And the best way to do that is to be observant to your body and your everything. So,
One thing I do want to add to that is a lot of times it takes us forever to figure out what we need to do for ourselves. So I know these things because I've been living with this for 14 years.
right.
I did not know these things at the beginning. So I
Me
didn't do
neither.
any of these things, right? So I think that obviously there's that entire process of trial and error, trying to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Um, but, I guess talking to people who have chronic illnesses helps a lot. You can learn one or two things that each person does and then try those. I remember I had an accident last year and I saw an OT, and she was giving me tips on, how to do everyday tasks with my injury. And I was laughing because those were things I was already doing and I had to learn them on my own.
Oh,
And it really broke my heart because I was like, when we go through a diagnosis, we need to have a better system in place to help the person understand what they're going through. Like, how come I wasn't sent to an OT when I first got diagnosed? It would have been helpful for me back then, you know? So
100%.
so maybe just that investment of seeing an occupational therapist just once, for those tiny little tricks like sit down while you're getting ready, sit down while you're folding your laundry,
Mm-hmm.
keep, if you keep two chargers on one on each floor, so you don't have to go back and forth. Tiny little things like that can help a lot. So yeah, I guess I would recommend seeing someone, um, just like at the beginning,
Yeah,
just with
just to
those
teach you
tips.
some basic things. And the other thing is I hope people who are watching this take away some things and then give us some comments. Like add to this is what do you do that are little tricks? Those are great tricks, what you just said, having a charger on two different floors. Like it seems so simple, but it's brilliant at the same time. It truly
Mm-hmm.
is. And this is everything you were just saying is part of the whole Lyfebulb mission. And this is a perfect way to actually end this conversation is because we need solutions, right, for things that we're going through. And Lifebulb's whole mission is to find solutions to meet the unmet needs of the patient. It's not necessarily about, a cure. It's about finding solutions to just make those little day things a little bit easier. And
Easier.
I hope everyone pays attention because we will have some new challenges that'll be coming out very, very soon. And who knows what device, application, app, innovation that we could find to help people going through whatever it is our next innovation challenge will be. So I hope everyone pays attention to that. And Sara, I just want to say thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and having a conversation with me. I know that some days are not easy. I love that you showed up and you did an amazing job and you were eloquent and beautiful, and I just adore you to pieces. And I love that you're part of our Lifebulb ambassadors, and I'm just really super proud to have you here. So thank you so
Thank you
much for
so
taking
much.
time out.
Thank you
I hope
so much.
everyone,
I
you are
do
so
also
welcome.
want to recognize the fact that, you also showed up even though you're
Thank you,
not
darling.
feeling well. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And I look forward to having more conversations like this.
Me too. This was awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.